I have a viewer. Look at that. Wow, surprised. So in the chat, you can ask me anything. Oh, my viewer's gone. I have a viewer. Hello, whoever my viewer is. Just drop a question, drop your name, tell me who you are in the chat, and I will answer a question. I have a question. Can you hear me? How's that for a good question? I lost my viewer again. I have another viewer. Hello. Hello, viewer, whoever you are. Drop your name in the chat. You can drop a question. You can tell me whether or not you can hear me. I would appreciate that as well. Um, I have another viewer. Nice. So I'm just gonna hang out here and write for a little bit. If nobody shows up, I wouldn't be surprised if no one does, because it's like Friday night, 8 p.m. Most people have lives. I don't have life. I have a computer and um, writing, so that's what I do. So if you have any questions or anything, drop them in. I'm just sitting here and writing until somebody asks a question. I'm working on a historical novel about mother of a very famous person in history, kind of like sort of you can think about it as being like the other villain girl kind of thing. So If anybody wants to ask me literally anything, I'm here. So I'm just sitting here and writing until somebody asks a question. You just pop it in the chat and I will answer. I'm a teacher in Southeast Dallas, which is about as inner city as you can get. I'm currently querying few novels, and I'm at the largest writing convention in the world. I have a reputation on YouTube for being a little bit negative, even though I'm not negative. So just drop a question in the chat. I think my mic's on. If it's not, let me know. Until then, I'm just going to keep typing away on my computer, working on my medieval historical novel until someone pops a question. So I'm only like 5,000 words in. Initially, I started it for Nano, but um, didn't get much in. I actually ended up working on my shorts a little bit more during Nano. So this takes place in like the 1000s, sort of Viking, but like end of the Viking Age in Normandy. So I'm literally just like working on it, trying to talk and work at the same time. If you have a question, pop it down. I am a teacher in Southeast Dallas at one of the most dangerous schools and neighborhoods in the South. And I'm querying a few novels. I'm not querying the one I'm working on right now. Um, but just pop a question into the chat. I will answer it. I have a reputation for being a little bit negative on YouTube, even though I don't really think I am. I have a whole playlist of positive content. And I'm going back in and reading what I've already written right now. And obviously, I'm not happy with it yet. It's my very, very first draft, but I think the concept is solid. It's kind of like in the vein of The Other Blind Girl, where it's about a real life character or a real life person who was adjacent to somebody who everyone knows about. Like, no one knew about Mary Boleyn before Philippa Gregory wrote about her. um, we have a few more people in here now. And I don't think a lot of people are going to know about this character until I write about her. It's a female. I don't really know how much I should give away, but I'll just tell my lovely three viewers it's about William the Conqueror's mother. And I'm not querying this novel because it's not done. You don't query novels that aren't finished. So I'm going back and reading over what I've already read. I've got a few more viewers now, so if you want to pop in the chat and ask a question, you do have to be signed into Gmail to ask a question, whether you have a channel or not. Ooh, my hair is very lopsided. There's a mirror on top of me. I did not notice that. So you can pop in the chat and ask a question. You can ask me anything. You can ask me about querying. You can ask me about my time in Hollywood. You can ask me, why I post negative content, even though I don't think I'm that negative. Or you could ask me what it's like working in the most dangerous neighborhood in Texas. It's one of the most violent, dangerous neighborhoods. Although I'm in Kansas City right now, and it's actually worse here. And like, this isn't the South, though. This is the Midwest. But I accidentally ventured away from downtown, um, like yesterday, and I was like, oh wow, their bad area is worse than our bad area. So pop a question into the chat. Obviously, no one's written anything yet, so I'm just gonna sit here writing, telling you about my writing, telling you about querying. I'll probably start talking about Hollywood. I'll go ahead and start talking about Hollywood, and you can pop a question in the chat. I was a pretty serious screenwriter for about 10 years, maybe a little bit less. So I started seriously screenwriting. Yeah, 10 years. That's crazy. It's more like 6 years. I started seriously screenwriting in 2015 and made my way into some writers' rooms. And if you ever get the opportunity to go to a writer room, don't. It's basically just a sweatshop. The showrunner tells you what to do. You're not out there to please the audience, you're there to please the showrunner. And you just write until your fingers wear off, and the showrunner literally can just rip it up and be like, I don't like this, write it again. So I never got my own movies and stuff produced, but I did place pretty high in some contests. The Nichols Fellowship, the Page Awards. Some of the more famous movies that came from those contests were Finding Forrester, Aquila and the Bee, and then there was The Judge, which I have not seen, but I think it's by the same person who has a movie called The Accountant. Snow White and the Huntsman was another one. So I consistently, when I was submitting my films, was making like the top, like 70 out of 1,000. Um, the highest I did place was I did make the finals in the Page Awards, which was the top 10 out of like 7,000. So yeah. Okay, so let's move on. I will talk about querying. So the way you query a novel is you find an agent. You have to have an agent if you want to publish traditionally. I posted a short earlier today about what the like highbrow writing world thinks of self-publishing. It can like destroy your career, and I actually encountered someone today who is struggling with that. And yeah, so you get an agent, and the way you do that is you query them. And what I learned was that if you get a query and you're just getting a bunch of form rejections on the query, then something's wrong with your query. But if you are getting requests for your manuscripts and then a bunch of rejection, it means there's something wrong with your manuscript. So I have to totally rework my query letter. Um, yeah. So I'm at AWP right now, which is the largest writing conference in the world. It's in Kansas City. I sat in, didn't sit in, I sat in on. So I watched some panels going on. And just for like the people who are on right now, if nobody asks a question after 30 minutes, I've been on for 17, 18 now. I'm just going to get off. I didn't really expect that many people to come on because of the time of day it is, but I know a lot of people actually have a life, and yeah. So ask me anything. I will continue talking about querying right now. So I found out that my main problems are with my query letters. One thing I did not know is that you're not supposed to email bomb people. Don't email bomb people. Send a very, very personalized query to an agent, ingratiate them, and they will take more of an interest, say something, based on your sale of like the Four Winds, I think we'd be a good fit kind of thing. They want to know that you have looked into them and their agency to see what kind of things they like. And I also heard that you should not like dump a bunch of emails on like random agents and then go to your like dream agent. You should go directly to your dream agent. And to be quite honest, there are a lot of people on YouTube, based on what I've heard from actual literary agents in the last 2 days, that are giving very bad advice. So probably the best way to learn about writing is to get amongst agents and writers for yourself, and that will get it going. So I'm going to be on here for like 10 more minutes, and if I don't get a question by then, I'm just going to leave because I spend all day at work talking to myself, essentially, is what it feels like. So I'll talk about working the inner city right now. Um, Lost my viewer. So I'm currently reading through something I've written. I guess I can start talking about what it's like teaching in the inner city. If you have a question, just pop it in the chat. I haven't been on that long, but I'm getting pretty hungry, so I'm probably gonna hop off relatively soon. You can pop a question down in the chat. I'm just reading over some work I have written. I guess I can talk a little bit about querying, what it's like about. I'm currently in the process of querying a few novels, but I'm at AWP. My hair is moving when I do this. I was just like staring at myself. I was like, "Oh, my hair is moving." So I guess I can talk about querying. I can talk about AWP, which is the largest writing conference in the world. I can talk about working in the inner city in the most dangerous city in the South. If you have a question, just go ahead, pop it in the chat. I can talk about why I'm, quote, negative on BookTube, even though I don't think I am. I have a huge playlist of positive content. um, I'm just reading over something I've been working on right now. It's a historical fiction novel that is nowhere near done, nowhere near even being close to done. Hey, good evening. Is it really the most dangerous city in the South? I did not know that. It is one of them, Liam. It is yes. So we have really, really bad gang violence and gun violence. I was hanging out here in Kansas City and I just randomly decided to go like try a local um like I don't know drive-through place, and I was looking around. I was like, wow, their bad neighborhood is even worse than our bad neighborhood. But yeah, it's Southeast Dallas, and um if you go and you look at like crime rates and stuff, we do definitely have the most gun violence. We have the most shootings on campus. It's very, very bad. The children are pretty disrespectful, and it's a very, very hard place to work. And I hope I can make it out soon. I kind of hope that's scary. It can be. Um, it's not like as scary as you think it probably would be because we're occupied, we have a job to do. So yeah, it's not that bad. Um, so I was just sitting here. I've had several viewers like popping in and out, but nobody's really asked a question. Um, so probably gonna hop off in like 5, 10 minutes. Just because nobody wants to stay and chat. So that's fine. It's Friday night. People have a life, but I'm here in a strange city. And I just thought I'd hop online for a little bit. Um, yeah. So, Liam, what's the weather like in Idaho right now? I was just watching the movie The Whale with Brendan Fraser, and that takes place in Idaho, but I looked it up, and it's like right on the border of Washington State. How close do you live to Washington State? Because I kind of thought Idaho was a desert, like a mountainous desert. This is Dr. Pepper. I don't drink coffee or black tea. I'm on the other side. Nice. So you're more like on the Wyoming side. What is Idaho border? Montana, Wyoming, Washington, maybe Oregon. Yeah, close to Wyoming and Montana. I've been to Wyoming and I guess I've been to Idaho too because I went to Grand Teton National Park when I was 16 and we looked at the mountains and we went on the other side of Idaho just to like say that we were in Idaho. So yeah, I've been to Idaho. Mountainous desert describes Utah more, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was still kind of dry out in Wyoming, but I guess it'd be more like green mountainous. Is it green out in Idaho? But yeah, desert mountainous would be Utah. I guess New Mexico too. I have family in New Mexico. I've been to Utah, but we flew to Utah and then we drove a rental car to Jackson. Tetons are nice. It is a dry, but not as I'm in Yellowstone vicinity. Okay, so it's green and good for growing. Nice, nice. I assume that's why the potatoes grow there. Yeah, like potatoes. Liam, you are an enabler, sir. I know you have ties to potatoes. I always tell people I 100% blame my obesity and overweightness on potatoes because those are the only bad things I eat. More specifically, French fries. I friggin' love French fries. French fries and hash browns are my kryptonite. I don't like mashed potatoes very much. It's like you take the potato and you just defile it by mashing it. Why would you do that? Like, why would you mash a gorgeous creation like a potato? I also like baked potatoes. Baked potatoes. I love potato. Who doesn't love potatoes? Potato chips are okay. I don't like just like the regular potato chips very much. I do like salt and vinegar and barbecue. So I'm gonna let the clock run for a little bit longer, Liam, and then I'm gonna hop off. But thank you for stopping in. How are your kids, by the way? You have 3 young kids, right? I think you just had another baby. Like, geez, Liam, that's a lot. I just got off work. It's 7:30 in Idaho now, right? Mountain time? Yeah, they're good. The little one is almost so cute. It's so cute. So cute. I like babies. When they get to be like elementary school kid age, then I'm like, oh God, Liam, I'm so sorry. But when they get to be like elementary school age, that's when I'm just like done with them until they turn 14. That sounded like elementary school age kids are so annoying. I cannot manage them. Now the freshmen aren't too bad. Like you gotta stay on top of them, and I'm actually gonna get the first part of Gen Alpha that will be in high school coming up next year because I teach freshmen and seniors. And I've heard some things about Gen Alpha, these older Gen Z kids too. TikTok has rotted their brains. And I am just like not even kidding. Like they cannot pay attention. And I don't take phones because when I was student teaching, I had a bad experience where I dropped a student's phone. It didn't break, but it like dented the case. So I don't take up phones like a bunch of other teachers do because I'm worried I'm gonna break it. And I have got to like hover over their shoulders to keep them off their phone because they cannot handle it. It is crazy. But when I was in school, we had iPhones, but my first smartphone I got when I was a senior, it was a Droid 2. And before that I had like the phone that would flip up and it had a keyboard, but it also had a touch screen. Um, but yeah, I definitely remember flip phones. My first phone I got when I was 12 and it was a flip phone. Sounds annoying. I was almost 18 when I got, yeah, so was I. I think I was, well, let me think. Um, yeah, it was my senior year yeah, it was my senior year of high school, so I think I was 17 or 18. Um, but it was a Droid. It's the only Android phone I've ever used. Before that, I had a phone that was like almost a smartphone. It was called the Envy Touch, and I still call that like the best phone I've ever had. I really liked it. And I lost it at the DMV when I was getting my driver's license renewed. So maybe I don't know. Like I don't remember how I lost that phone. Um but yeah, and I went and got a new one and I really liked the Envy Touch. It was cool. But yeah, it didn't have like apps and stuff, but you could get on the internet with it. Like if you flipped it open, it had that whole keyboard and it even had a mouse that you could use like the arrow buttons to like navigate different web pages. So for our new viewer, go ahead, drop something in the chat, ask me anything you want to know. Yours was a Windows phone, funnily enough. So those were getting sort of big. I think you're just a little bit younger than me, Liam, but those were kind of like making their way into the smartphone realm around the time I got my Droid, but it because I remember my dad was looking at getting one and I knew a guy in college who had a Windows phone and he really really loved it my freshman year in college. But I broke my Droid freshman year of college from dropping it because I am a phone dropper. And I went and got an iPhone 4S, and I've been iPhone ever since. I've actually had two of the like cheap versions of the iPhone. I've had first one was the iPhone 4S. Second one was the iPhone 5C, which was kind of like the 5, but like cheaper. That one I just like totally shattered. Um, they didn't take hints why they don't exist. I don't think. I don't think they exist anymore either. Then I had the iPhone 5C, which I actually really really liked. That's considered their very worst phone. The new thing back then was their like thumb sensor. That didn't have that. I would just click it, unlock it, and go. And then after that, I think I had the 6S, which I did not like. I really did not like it after having the 5C. It was mostly the size. The size was really, really awkward. I did not like it. And then that one got wet. I got caught out in the rain during a rainstorm at my college and I couldn't find my car and it was freezing cold and my Yota 6S, I really didn't like it. I didn't like it because of the size. I like what it did. It was definitely a tech upgrade, but it like see this is a 13 mini. I can turn this on the side and do this comfortably. I could not, and I can hold it in one hand comfortably. I could not do that with the 6S because I was like reaching all the way over, and I couldn't really do that with the 7 either. So after my phone got ruined in the rain, I switched to a 7. I very, very, very much thought about getting like an S8, maybe, if that's what it was, the first one with like the curved screen, going back to Android. But I just ended up on a 7. And then after I graduated college, I worked off my 7 for a while. And I think I got my 10R, which was the phone I had before this, maybe 2019. I think, yeah, 2019 because my 7 broke due to no fault of my own. it just like shut down. It kept saying it had no service, and evidently that was just like an Apple thing. So I think the 10S was the like big new one, and I didn't really want to pay for that one. So they were like, "Oh, well, you can get a 10R, which was like the cheap version of the 10S." So I got that, and I liked that one enough. It was big and bulky, and um, the camera wasn't too great, but it was fine. And then after that, I don't remember why I got rid of that phone, but I did have like my plan coming up. You have the 10R. I actually really liked that one. Yeah, I would think it would probably be dying by now. I've had this 13 mini long enough to where I could get a new phone, but I really don't want a new phone. But even mine's starting to sort of like give up on me a little bit. But your wife has a 13. My mom, I think, had a 13, and then now she has a 15, and she doesn't know how to work it very well. She doesn't like it because it's so different from the 15 or from the 13, whatever she had. But my sister, I think, has a regular 10, and it's like not working at all. But like she has an extra one for her work. But no, I just go off the 13 mini. I got a notification back in October that I could like get another one, but I really don't want another one. Um, yeah, I really like this one. I like the size. I've dropped it more than a few times, but it's survived so far. So we've got Liam, we've got one other viewer. That other viewer, if you have a Gmail, you can drop a question. Um, Liam, how's your writing going, by the way? I'm the one asking questions here, but how's your writing going? I know you write some. I know you like to do short stories. Fantasy short stories aren't like super easy to break through with, but I was at one of the panels I was at today. Not the best so far this year. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. One of the panels I was at today, you've written some Oh, I don't really write poetry. Have you ever tried creative nonfiction? It's fairly similar to poetry in that it's written like um, mostly about your real life, but it's just like memoir and stuff that is meant to be read like fiction. It's meant to be read like a novel, kind of like lots of true crime stories like Truman Capote. You should try it. It's really, really fun. It is actually a lot of fun. And you'd be surprised. I actually had an idea for like a internet series or maybe a blog or something called like random biography, where I would just like open the phone book and choose one person's name and then call that person up and be like, "Hey, I want to tell your life story." And it would be just as interesting as anything else you'd ever seen, because people don't realize like how touching just normal regular stories can be. Like just average people are such complicated, complex beings that there's really nothing more moving than a human being at their best, or a human being who's trying to be their best. And there's nothing worse than a human being at their worst. Humans are amazing people. So, for my viewers other than Liam, if you have a question or you want to know anything, you have anything to say, go ahead and drop something down in the chat. I think we got, oh, well said. Well, thank you, Liam. I think we got 3 people right now. You like humans? You know, I like guinea pigs a little bit more than I like humans. There were a lot of people around at AWP, which I it's like associations of writers and writers programs. People just call the conference AWP, and I am all like, I need a break. There's just so many people, so much chattering. Cassandra, I've heard the same. I have heard the same. I have a lot of students from Ecuador who escaped the gangs down there, and they aren't bad. Do have to go. All right, bye, Liam. You're a great guy. See ya. But yes, guinea pigs, they call them cuy in Ecuador, Peru. I have heard that they taste good. I actually one guy who used to work at the school where I work, I asked him, he said he'd eaten it at a small village in Mexico, and the pictures of my guinea pigs was making his mouth water. And I asked him what they tasted like, and he was like, kind of like chicken, but also not like chicken. I was like, that's really helpful. Thank you for that. But it probably tastes similar to rabbit, I would think. Um, I'm going to school to be a teacher. What advice do you have for me? Cassandra, don't. Um, it's not, if you have another option, if education and teaching is not what you have always wanted to do not go into teaching. It is a very, very unforgiving profession. It's very dangerous emotionally, mentally. It doesn't pay well. You're going to be paying student loans off for the rest of your life if you've taken out student loans, and if you're in the US. If you have any other option, try that first, because teaching is not a great way to live. It's brutal. It is very physical on top of psychologically rough. You have to be up and about and around the classroom all the time. Granted, I do work at the inner city, so my environment is definitely a lot more difficult than somebody else's environment would be over in the suburbs. But I'm threatened by students all the time. I've had books thrown at me. Um, I get cussed out all the time by students. We go into lockdown all the time, and evidently it's just really not that much better in the suburbs. If you like teaching, like actually teaching and not necessarily teaching children, I would say look into community college. I recently applied to teach at the community college I was at. But if you are dead set on being a teacher, do not go in with stars in your eyes, thinking that this is going to be the greatest thing ever, thinking that you are going to love your job, that it's going to be smooth sailing. You have got to be skeptical. You have got to know that it's going to be hard. I have outlasted probably, I'm sure more than 10. I don't know. People, granted, again, I'm in the inner city, which is why I get paid so much. And to be honest, um, I went in there knowing how bad it was going to be. But earlier this year, something did happen that did shock me. One of my students broke into my car, drove it around a little bit, and destroyed the engine. So from the week before Thanksgiving to Tuesday, I did not have a car because it was getting fixed because of what my student did. And yes, the student got arrested, but I didn't get any compensation for it. Luckily, it was still under warranty. Otherwise, I would have had to pay thousands of dollars. They had to replace the engine, they had to replace the turbo. It was crazy. So if anybody else has any other questions, go ahead, drop them in the chat. But Cassandra, I applaud you for wanting to be a teacher. I just think you need to really, really give it some thought and ask yourself if what part of yourself are you willing to give up for your profession? Because we give a lot, both physically and mentally, and the kids don't even meet us halfway. We work so hard to get these lessons together, to just like show up there every day is not easy. And the kids treat us really poorly. Our administrators in general, um, all across pretty much all across school districts are having problems being a little bit out of touch with what the teachers are going through, but at the same time, their hands are tied at the district level, so they literally cannot help us out as much as they want to. But if you want to teach K through 12, go in there, but don't be surprised if you hate it. And there is a chance, like, I have a master's degree, I have a master's in education, and I am overeducated, underpaid, and I can't really do much else now with my credentials because my my degree is in creative writing, which I only got because my parents made me go to college, and everything else had too much math. So that's why I went to creative writing, because my parents forced me to get to go to college. I didn't want to go to college. Um, and so after that, I sold insurance for a little bit. I didn't make as much as I did when I was as I'm now teaching, but I made more than I think the average teacher in Texas would have. Um, then the pandemic hit, so I couldn't sell face to face anymore. So I went back to school to get what was called a post baccalaureate certification, which just means like you don't get a degree, you just get to teach. You get to be a certified teacher. And I was on the phone with my advisor, and she was like, "Well, you only need like two more classes to get a master's degree in it." And I was like, okay. So now I have a master's in education that I got online, which not really that I had a choice to get it online because, class of 2021 represent. But I assume you're going to have to student teach. And well, you probably, I don't know. In Texas, the way it works, you have to do an observation first. I skipped that because of the pandemic. Everything was still virtual. So I did my observation, which was basically just watching a bunch of videos from the teaching channel online. And then I went straight into a classroom, and it was shocking. But at the same time, I knew I didn't really have much of a choice. I definitely liked the school that I was student teaching at better than I like the school now, just because I liked the stuff we taught there a whole lot more. Um, we taught we taught a lot of Shakespeare. We just, I don't know, it was just a better curriculum. And that was the first time kids had been back in school since the pandemic, and it was crazy. Just the amount of violence that teachers were not prepared for. And then I left that school. That wasn't really an inner city school. It was in a suburb, but it was not in a very nice suburb. It still had like 70% of the students came from poverty. The school I teach at now, it's like 95% of the students are economically disadvantaged. And what was I saying? Got distracted by Discord. And they really water down the curriculum for these kids. And I'm not even really sure if they know that they're doing it, but like probably 70% of our students need English language support. Most of them are native Spanish speakers. So we have students who don't speak English at all. I have a ninth grader who can't read at all, but I know he has a learning disability. So it's not just the fact that he can't read. I do have a senior who I'm pretty sure cannot read. Um, she was always kind of shady when I was like figuring it out, and I'd be working with her one on one. I was like, okay, can you read this out loud? She'd just be like, I'm not the best reader. So I kind of like caught on to that, and I just was like, okay. And but the majority of my ninth graders right now are reading on like a sixth grade level, and the majority of my seniors are probably on like an eighth grade level. Yeah, probably. Pretty close. Hold on, my mom's calling me. Well, with that, I'm gonna hop off. I've been online for 50 minutes. Thank you, Cassandra and Liam, for hopping on, but my mother just called me and I need to return her call. So hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm gonna call my mommy. End.